Thank you for staying with us. We'll now switch lanes and take the conversation to another perspective. Now we're looking at the measures put in place to ensure a good fight is put up against the novel coronavirus that has killed hundreds of thousands of people globally. And we are being joined via Skype from Victoria Island, area of Lagos, by Dr. Abiola Fasina. She is an emergency physician and health policy consultant and the medical director of Emergency Healthcare Consultants, a group of emergency medicine specialists focused on advancing capacity in emergency and critical care. She currently serves as the group medical director for the COVID-19 Isolation and Treatment Center at Landmark. It's a pleasure to have you on the program, Dr. Fasina.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be invited.
Of course, you're welcome. So let's begin with how you think we've responded in trying to curb and flatten the curve as the outbreak of the virus, hit us pretty much unawares.
Yes, of course. I think that the response of the state was very admirable in terms of the initial policy of trying to contain the spread of the virus. Of the states in the Federation, I commend Lagos State because I do think that they have attempted to set up isolation centers and develop a coherent protocol. That being said, I think what we can see from the global data and from the optics from all over the world is that the virus has really set in. There is now community transmission of COVID-19 in Nigeria and in Lagos specifically. And so at this point, I think we all have realized we have to change the nature and the way in which we've been responding to the virus from one of containment to one of really trying to assess people with severe symptoms and treating them quickly.
All right. So just yesterday, that's on Sunday, there was a press briefing by the governor, and he pretty much wasn't happy with the way residents of Lagos have, followed the guidelines and the directives that, were given as the lockdown was being gradually eased. What do you think could be the implication of residents not, following these processes as best as they can?
The implications are that the virus will continue to spread and that we will continue to see more and increasing infections. As the virus continues to do that, it will hit those with other medical problems and older adults harder. We're also beginning to see data from other parts of the world that the virus is actually not benign in children. There are a subset of children who actually develop severe illness, particularly related to the heart. And so we are all learning how COVID behaves, really learning as we go along, and all of how this virus can affect humans is not yet known. Lagos State citizens really do need to be careful. The lockdown was eased for economic reasons, but it doesn't negate the fact that COVID-19 is still spreading rapidly and can still do a lot of damage to us in Nigeria.
All right, so we pretty much understand that, this cases kind of vary based on patient, depending on the patient. But what has been your experience in the isolation center so far? I mean, what would you say has been the most consistent treatment you've offered, as you discharge patients and you receive patients as well?
We've been following the Lagos State guidelines in terms of our drug management. I think the most consistent treatment that we are offering is actually oxygen to those who need it. COVID in this environment seems to, for the most part, leave people with mild symptoms. We have seen a few people with very severe illness. Even people who seem well sometimes will develop severe shortness of breath that requires extra oxygen. And so that seems to be the one thing that we do consistently that seems to help people at low doses if we can. The state, as I said, also has a drug guideline that we've been following, which they are investigating and doing research on, but so far seems to help with clearing the virus from the system quickly. And so I think that those are the two things that we've been doing very well. Of course, we're also containing the people who are ill and trying to sequester them away from well people. And that, at least in the beginning, was a good strategy. I think now that COVID has spread into the community, we may have to change the way in which we think of that.
All right, so just in winding down, Nigeria received samples of COVID organics from Madagascar. What's your take on that?
The stories from Madagascar are very interesting. Essentially, it's artemisia. It's an organic product. It's available in plants and is actually what is very similar to what we isolated to treat malaria. That's where artemether and artesunate come from. And it's been used for many years in Chinese medicine. I am not one to downplay or poo-poo organics or things that are not from our usual pharmacological sort of stream. That being said, I hesitate to wholeheartedly endorse everything from Madagascar without some clear data from research studies about exactly how this tea works. We don't have data from the hospitals where this was apparently used. And also we don't have studies that show us exactly how well people are doing on it.
All right, so hopefully all of that data will come through in the nearest future, and perhaps we'll see how well it did there and how well it might likely do here. But again, I have to say thank you,
yes.
Dr. Abiola Fasina, the medical director at the Etiosa Isolation and Treatment Center at Landmark. Thanks again for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Of course, bye-bye. Well, that's where we are with that, but we'll take a look at the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
The demolition of hotels due to alleged failure to comply with lockdown directives in Rivers State begins this week's most viewed videos in 5th place. It's followed by the evacuation of 160 stranded Nigerians from the United States who landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja.
All right. Pride of the Green.
Third spot sees the creation of a mini aircraft by gifted Nigerians.
Let me show you something about manufacturing.
In second place is the lamentation of residents of Jigawa State over mysterious deaths recorded in the northwestern state.
There is a study that is related to burial grounds. That one gives us more of statistics with minimal details, but it gives us also a pointer into the community where to go. It gives us how widespread the problem is. It gives us the clustering of deaths where they are occurring and the frequency with which they are occurring. Then the last one, which is the most definitive, is the real tests, where we test swabs from dead people to give us a clear understanding if the person actually died of corona.
While the most viewed videos in the past week is that of vigilant security operatives denying men found hiding in a truck conveying cows entry into Lagos.
And that's the program. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. Keep staying safe. Bye for now.